today, like as you see in the post, we're going to be talking about his high ticket closing sales that he's been doing. And this isn't just great success he's seen recently through this pandemic, but it's been for a while. I met him in person. I met you like a year plus online through a mutual friend. And then we met in person at an event last September, and he was crushing it then. I think he had closed his first $40,000 package for one of his clients. So I've always stayed in touch with him. I love people who are good at what they do and great at sales and helping people make committed decisions to buying their coaching products. So I wanted to take this time to pick his brain, get answers to anybody who is uncertain on how sales processes work for this kind of high ticket sale. And I'll let you introduce yourself and tell us a bit about what you do.
Yeah, man, I appreciate you having me. So I live in Atlanta, Georgia. I actually own a training facility, a personal training studio, which I actually had to close this week. And I do that part-time. I've been doing the online Fit Pro thing for probably the last 6 to 8 months, and really then transitioned into helping Fit Pros. And so that's what Will Nelson and I are doing right now.
Excuse me.
Is supporting Fit Pros to transition their businesses from in-person to online so that they can have more time, freedom, and just overall quality of life, because coaches tend to give all their time and energy away coaching others to do the opposite. So that's what we're helping them do now.
Yeah, so I mean, isn't that like aren't coaches like so used to being locked into a physical location? Is that a tough transition for your market?
You know, I found it to be a tougher transition psychologically than actually logistically. I think a lot of people just don't understand what that transition looks like in terms of what an in-person trainer does to what a coach does online. And I think a lot of that is subconscious, just conditioning for the trainers themselves and the coaches, because so many of us get caught up with like counting reps for our clients and writing workouts for our clients and doing nutrition plans for them. But we fail to recognize the reason why our clients are actually there is just the overall accountability and support that they need from somebody who can see their blind spots and point it out to them, right? So that, I think that's the thing that we're trying to educate the gym owners and online and in-person trainers to understand, that like we actually have a lot more value to provide these people, and we just have to recognize it. I'm doing nutrition plans for them, but we fail to recognize. There you go. So yeah, man, honestly, I think it's a lot easier once they open their mind to it and grasp it. And the interesting thing is now is a lot of these coaches have wanted to be online for a long time, just didn't know what it looked like and didn't have the urgency necessary because they still had the in-person thing. And now the transition is everybody has no option, right? And so they're forced to have to do it. So it's a very interesting time right now in terms of our industry, and the floodgates are opening in terms of online coaches exponentially increasing.
Right. And I mean, like as you're gonna hear about like transitioning and using different technologies and tech stacks from like a gym. I mean, they have physical equipment. That's a hard thing to kind of virtualize, but like you mentioned, it's more psychological than it is anything else. And apply this to any other business that you guys run, whether it's like real estate or working with lawyers or whatever it is you guys do. Think of innovative ways to keep your customers in play and thrive and survive as we go through these Q&As. And by the way, if you're here live, drop a like on that button there, and also let us know #live, #replay as we go through this. So tell me about this. Like, how are you guys generating leads for your own business?
In terms of our online business?
Yeah, for your online business. Yeah.
So there's a couple mediums that we're using right now. The biggest one is honestly just getting into our group and providing value. And what I mean by value is not like, here's how to sell X, Y, and Z, but honestly just showing them the roadmap of what it actually looks like to transition themselves. Because like, we can tell you everything that you want to know, but are you going to be able to implement those things when this happens in your business? And then when this happens in your business? So the support we want to bring for our clients is not only a tactical one, but it's here's how we're going to support you when X, Y, and Z happen in your business, because those things are going to happen. So realistically, it's just showing them what it looks like and then providing them as much value. And using 2 steps and providing them resources, and then getting on a call and just creating transparency for them, honestly.
Right. So now let's go from you have your lead, you're booking your call. Now let's go into the fun stuff that I think a lot of people can use your success, like your success map that you've been using to help them kind of close for whatever industry they're serving. Like how do you guide the conversation? Like where do you pretty much start and where do you finish with these people? Because I mean, you're leading them to their future, right?
Yeah. Like I said, like I finished saying just a second ago, it's just transparency, especially right now more than ever. The sales tactics and marketing tactics that used to work are not working anymore. People need to trust you now more than ever, and they need to trust you with their purpose and their identity. So helping them recognize their purpose and their identity for themselves rather than me telling them has been the most powerful thing for me. I'm very clear about my intentions to start a call. I always want to be very clear with how I position myself. I will be direct. I'm not on calls to sell people. I'm on calls to diagnose what's going on, where they are, and then how I can support them where they are, rather than here are the features to my program and this is why it would work for you. That's important, but that's only important when I recognize what's really going on. And I find that people really appreciate when we go deeper and expose the root of the problem rather than just tackle the symptoms, because every other coach right now in the market is tackling symptoms. Like, well, this is happening, so let's do this, and this is happening, so let's do this. But those are short-term fixes, and we want to focus on long-term solutions to the deeper problem. And that, I think that right there allows for us to feel like we're in integrity with our business and really provide the clarity necessary for our clients to take the next steps.
Right. Okay. And then when you're running these campaigns or taking these calls and you're diagnosing people, do you have different levels based off of their stage of their career or where their goals are?
When you say levels, what do you mean?
Like different levels of a program that you can implement, like an online training only, a holding your hand program, and then a long-term program.
Yeah, that was a good question. And I think that's really actually important to understand, that having multiple offers in a situation like this is really, really critical, because there's a lot of people out there that need support, but the majority of them are not exactly where your one program is. So yeah, absolutely. Having a course, having a mentorship, and then having like an extended long-term program are really critical to being able to provide your client the ideal service that they need to want to stay working with you and get the results that they're there for in the first place. So absolutely, you should have multiple offers.
What do those look like? Like in your business, because like in mine, I look at it as like we have a online program and like mini courses, let's say. Then we have a 90-day, and then we have something a little bit longer, like 6 to 12 months. What do you guys do for your business?
I think it's pretty similar, actually. Just tiering it out in terms of a course is just generally like, here's the framework to how to get yourself from 0 to
Right.
5K, learning how to acquire clients, learning how to build out your Facebook group, learning how to build out your messaging and just your process in terms of identifying who you're serving. And then the next step is typically a 12-week program for us. And that's going to accelerate you to be able to make $10,000 a month, right? And it's going to give you the systems in place to do so. And then the support is more group driven. Of course, like for us, it's really important to make sure our clients are getting the success that they need. And so getting on calls with them one-on-one is something we're just willing to do.
Mhm.
And then there's the next process, which is more of the 6 to 12 month plan again, like you said. And that's more systematizing and building out the processes, scaling your team out, and just overall learning how to scale your business and turn it into a business from what used to really just be a hobby.
Yeah, no, I love that. That's absolutely key. I mean, people are getting the shortcut. I know that people have to invest in themselves. What do you see as the like one of your top reasons why people decide not to invest into themselves? Is it like a self-limited belief that they just don't think they'll do the work, or what is that? What is that? Because I see you smiling, so I think you're probably thinking the same thing.
Yeah, so I find that prospects are convinced that they'll do the work, and then some, for the most part, they're convinced that it won't work, and that's fair. I think that's what our job is as a coach, is to help them see the other side without telling them that for themselves. You know what I mean? So selling is definitely not telling, and what I mean by that is the more we get caught up trying to explain what we do, trying to explain what our program is, the less the attention is on actually finding out what that person really needs. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And so what I find are the two driving factors of decision making are typically your identity and your purpose. And the distinguishing point there is the clarity someone has within themselves on what their actual purpose is and what they're actually identifying with at that moment. You know what I mean? And is there an alignment there? So if you don't align your purpose and your vision together and who you identify with at that moment, all in combination, your business isn't going to fail. You know what I mean? If you don't have that clarity. So for me, that's the thing that I really focus on, is providing clarity for them about where they are personally in their business, in their life, where it is that they actually want to be, and what that gap is right now that they're missing to be able to get to that point. And then, quite honestly, just providing the solution to that gap.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome, man. That was powerful stuff right there. When you're holding your calls, like getting to like some tactical stuff and that people can use, are you trying to do these calls mostly on Zoom as the first call, or do you use the phone?
Yeah, I honestly, I'm kind of torn. It really just depends. I like to use Zoom. I like to be face to face as much as possible, more so now than ever. I used to not necessarily care for the face to face first call, but I think, like I was saying before, it's more about trust right now, and people need to feel intimately that they can trust you to be able to help them where they are, so they mitigate the risk that they're taking. In terms of like the tactical approach that I'm taking with this, it's, well, reframe that question for me, honestly, like, because I got caught up with the thought process. So reframe what you were saying for me.
Yeah. So the question was like, are you, for your first call that you're talking to your
right, your phone, right?
Yeah.
And honestly, I've been just allowing whatever is needed right now for the prospect. I'm a Zoom person. Like, I like to focus on being on Zoom. And just generally right now, whatever the client is needing, wherever they are, I'm trying to meet them there. And it's not necessarily about a one call close anymore. I'm finding it necessary to just show up on those calls, whether it's a 15 to 30-minute call initially, to just get to know where they are and identify where you can serve them, whether that's a course, whether you can't, or whether that's a program that they would need. That determines where that second call goes. And I would say right now, the most intimate situations you can create with your prospect would be ideal for you to be able to create that comfort and trust for them. So my suggestion would be getting on face-to-face calls like this, because that's where things are going anyway, and there's no point in avoiding it. If you can, of course. Some people just don't have that option in terms of getting on Zoom with all that's going on in their lives.
Yeah, I mean, and just a little Zoom plug. It does have a mobile app, so, and it works great. So in case that helps, if you are on the go or whatnot, it's hard to be on the go today, but it is definitely creates a connection with a lot of people. What's that?
If you're stuck on the couch, you can always use it.
Yeah, you don't have to walk to your computer. Exactly. But yeah, Zoom works great. I use it on my mobile phone all the time. In fact, like I talked to somebody in our mutual group just yesterday at 8 a.m. that had gave me an ideal client that I'd like to work with. And then I had a great conversation with that client. We did like Zoom calls just for the introduction and referral, because body language is amazing, and getting to know somebody across the country is a lot more intimate, and you accelerate that friendship and relationship, whether it's just like I get on calls with my family now on Zoom, whereas before I may not even talk to them at all this year. So
you together, right? COVID is.
Yeah, so the first call was a little rough, getting people on Zoom and how to push the button and turn the camera on and the audio. But outside of that, it was just it's now a streamlined process and going to be a day of life. So disruption just got accelerated, unfortunately, because of this scenario. But it was coming anyways, and now it's just a good time to learn and adapt.
I would agree, man. I would agree. It's shining the spotlight right now on relationship building. If you Yeah. If you were just a tactical person and a salesperson just trying to push the envelope to get closes, that's not going to work as much anymore. It's definitely going to be in relationships.
Totally. I love that. Now, I wanted to ask another question around diving into the sales because everybody needs to get better. I mean, I'm even talking about myself as I ask these questions. People need to get better at framing the upfront contract and talking and dictating the agenda. Like, how do you frame the call right when you get on? If you can give us an example.
Sure. Honestly, it's just stating my intentions. The first thing I want to do is just understand what things are bottlenecking their business, what they want to move along faster, what the vision is they have for their life and their business, because oftentimes people are just trying to make money and forget that their life is more important than their business, and then seeing what's stopping them from achieving that. And then just clearly stating that if I think I can help, I'm going to tell you what I do and show you how I do it. And then just honestly get to understanding what they're even there for in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
Like, not about beating around the bush and making small talk. It's about being direct and having strong communication and doing it with tonality that actually sincerely cares, and slowing down your thought process and listening to what they have to say, and then being able to diagnose with a sincere, like authentic response rather than what's the next thing on my script. Does that make
Right.
sense?
Right. So basically you have these frameworks that you follow, and in between the next step of the framework, you're having that intimate conversation to dig into the root, what you mentioned before. Does that sound right?
Yeah, definitely. It's like, what's the pain that they're facing right now? What is it, the thing that they're struggling with, and what is it actually that they're struggling with? They'll tell you it's one thing, but it's your job as a coach, as a salesperson, as a mentor, to be able to push through the facade of what they think is wrong and actually diagnose what is wrong without being the one who states it, right?
Right.
And then helping them recognize that they're probably not suited to fix their own problem if they weren't even aware that it was happening, right? So just creating a little bit of doubt, which is necessary for action to take place, right? And then what is that cost that is taking place with them not achieving that? With them struggling with that, with them being stuck where they're stuck, having the doubts that they have, right? And then just guiding them through that process. And then once you've got their pain, their doubt, their cost, like, that's where you're going to shift and understand what their desires are and what it is that they want to achieve, and the things that come along with what it takes to solve that, whether that's the support that they need, whether that's the financial logistics that they're going to have to go through, and just taking it through that process so that it all kind of flows together and makes sense, where they'll be in a position to feel strongly confident that they're making the right decision at the end based on understanding everything that we've created clarity around on that call.
Okay, awesome. I love that. Now, are you okay sharing like an example of like somebody comes in with a problem and they say, okay, in my business, a lot of the problems I hear are leads. Leads are my true problem. And what is one example that you hear from your market, and then how do you dig deeper under to expose what the true root cause is versus that symptom?
Right. Well, specificity, right? Like understanding who it is they want to serve, understanding what their marketing is built around, understanding how many leads they're actually generating, how much money that's actually creating, right? Getting down to the logistics. A lot of times people will be like, well, I have a ton of leads and I just, or I don't have any leads, but if I get on calls, I can actually sell them. And then you find out that the numbers don't actually align with that. So at the end of the day, what it turns out it typically is people aren't clear on the market that they want to serve, so that their marketing and their positioning and the framing of the messaging that they're putting out isn't actually attracting their ideal audience. So they're getting on calls with a lot of people that don't necessarily align with what it is that they want to do and serve in their business. But yeah, I mean, does that answer your question?
Yeah, no, absolutely. That was helpful. Now, going into going into the sales process of what you do, like, do you already have a set process? Let's say I do a two-step closing process or one step, or do you kind of feel it out if it requires two steps versus one?
I think you'll know if it's two steps versus one pretty early on.
Mhm.
So I don't typically wait till the end to make that kind of decision. But whether I make an offer or not, based on where they are, I would probably say is based on, how they're feeling at the end. Let's say something that I've learned really just more recently than ever was from Cole Gordon was just simplifying the process for them and giving them two options, right? Like what's the worst case scenario and what's the best case scenario, and then minimizing the worst case scenario and maximizing the best case scenario. And when you frame it for them in that way and then gauge how they feel about that afterwards, it really opens up the opportunity to temperature check them and see where they're at in terms of making a decision, and then asking them where they want to go from there, right? It's not about cold, hard closing people. It's about allowing them to make that decision that they know they need to be making and being the leader for them that facilitates them getting there. So yeah, I wouldn't say that there's a specific, like every time I do it this way.
Mm-hmm.
It definitely depends on where that person is, what things they're objecting to specifically, what things that they're struggling with, in terms of creating that, like that next step process, because there's a if this then that situation, and it's kind of like it's very situational, I would say.
Right. So I want to dig into more of what you just said. That's kind of cool thing about what's the worst case, best case scenario. Can you give me an example of how you frame it?
Yeah, for sure. So let's say, for example, somebody's issue is financial, right?
Mm-hmm.
And let's say our program is $6,000, for example, right? And we're going to help you, and the program is 12 weeks. Let's say we're going to help you learn how to create an offer, how to create your marketing and sell that offer, and then learn how to actually position your offer in a way that is going to be able to recognize $1,500 for a sale rather than the $200 that you're making now. So once we've created all that clarity of what they're charging and how much they want to charge and what program they're trying to create, it's simply like just framing it. Okay, so like the worst case scenario, based on the financial aspects of it, let me get on the same side of the table with you and just kind of figure out what that worst case and best case scenario would be. Worst case scenario, you come into the program, you learn how to create an offer, scale your marketing, and take that offer and sell 4 to 5 of them and make your money back by simply just understanding the principles. And best case scenario, you start making $15,000 to $20,000 a month in your business in the next 12 weeks and learn how to scale a business that can give you the time, money, and freedom that you've been looking for. And then just being quiet. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
What that does is like, okay, well, the worst case, I'm just going to make my money back. You know what I mean? And the best case, and I'm going to make it back probably pretty quickly. And then the best case scenario, I'm like, I've got the vision and the dream that I've always wanted. That's the thing that I wanted. So what's the risk? It just downplays the risk for them.
Right. Now, when you've got somebody to the end and they're saying like, okay, I understand everything, and they're still not committed, do you have a follow-up process for those people, or do you leave it on their court?
Do you mean post call?
Yeah, but like when you end the call, somebody's like, hey, they're a really ideal fit. They recognize it. They're not pulling the trigger.
Right.
Then what's the follow-up process thereafter on that specific scenario?
I think it's just support. So then I've been able to diagnose what's wrong. I've been able to diagnose what it is that they actually need help with.
Mm-hmm.
And they're financially or not psychologically there yet to be able to pull the trigger. So my intention is to go provide them training and support that can help them get clear on the things that they're lacking. So in our marketing, we'll now take those same objections and create marketing around it, and then tag them in those videos, tag them in those posts, so that they can get the training necessary to get educated, so that when it's the time for them to make that decision, you're the one that's still on their mind.
Right.
Obviously, following up with them in Messenger is a great way as well. That's kind of the obvious. But I think a great play is just creating marketing that's directly attacking the objections that they're facing. And by attacking, I mean just providing clarity and support for them to learn and let it allow for it to sink in and be their own idea, so that when they come back to the table, they're more prepared to make that decision.
I love that. That's the best thing I've heard so far is like there's a lot of great things here, but is the support is changing the way you position your sales pitch or your offer into trust, because then you're emotionally disconnected from their wallets, because it's easy for anybody to think like, well, hey, like I'm dealing with a guy who owns 3 locations. I know his revenue. I'm going to make 20 grand off this, or 6 grand or 5 grand. You're already already at the end in what's in your own bank account as a salesperson. But when you're not worried about the transactional side of things, and you truly are kind of concerned about, can you help? Because a lot of things will happen when you sell somebody that shouldn't have been sold, and you pressured them in. You get that buyer's remorse fairly quickly, and a message saying, hey, you know what, talk to the wife. I can't do it, she's gonna kill me, some kind of smokescreen stuff. So I think, like you mentioned, like trust and support is just so fucking important in today's economy, and it's also just going to be the most important thing going forward. And it has been probably the most important thing, but more recognized now because of all this bullshit. Because yeah, because I mean, like, referrals have always happened ever since the beginning of time, since anybody bought stuff. So I mean, that's trust. A referral is just pure trust. I trust my best friend to work with PD. I trust this person to work with so and so. So I mean, those are just, when you have a direct referral network, that's how you you probably get referrals from non-clients because they see your videos and then they see one of their friends struggling and saying, hey, maybe you should check out this group.
Right. And I think you had a really good point about the transactional side, and I'm guilty of this too, man. There's times when you're in a scarce mindset where you're thinking about, oh, I want this money or I need this money. You're getting like 6 steps ahead in the call in your own mind in terms of like already depositing the check in your bank account, and you lose track of where you are in the call and what that person actually needs and what the intentions, your true intentions are in the first place. And man, that kills more deals than any objection ever will, ever. Is when you're not in the right place mentally, emotionally, getting onto that call in the first place or present on the call during. Oh man, that's the difference between making 6 figures a month in your business and struggling to close leads. I mean, it really is that big of a difference.
Yeah, because like you'll see, like I've seen this, I've hired this, I've been this guy before, where I would get leads and burn them, mishandling calls, not sounding confident, unprepared, noisy backgrounds. I mean, there's just a variety of things, but the simple thing is, like I tell people, is like Tom Brady, when he's playing football, the greatest of all time, he has a little note sheet on his wrist, right? So it's just kind of giving him the framework of some plays he may want to choose in that scenario. So that's okay to also have a sheet of paper with your 7-step process or your 12-step process. You don't have to have it word for word. You can just have the bullet points if you're further along. But the point is, you just have to write down like your introduction on stating the agenda. And that probably should be the most powerful statement of how you're going to handle the call and what they should expect by the end of the call. And then in between, it's just trying to have like a dinner conversation with somebody you just met that is interesting to you, where you're truly trying to diagnose them versus be that adversary on the other side of the table in a negotiation.
Yeah, and it's important what you said about the diagnosis. That needs to not be judgmental at all, right? It needs to come off as completely curious and inquisitive of what's going on. And if there's ever a sense of judgment or like speaking down to somebody, is a lot of times you're going to lose that deal. And I got to tell you, man, something that's so simple that a lot of people probably don't do right now is take notes. I take such thorough notes on every call, because let's say that person does join. You know, you want to welcome that person into the community, right? And when you welcome them into the community, you want to have your notes and the details of that person, where you can like share the details about that human being when they come into your community. Or you want to have a backdrop of, if this person decides not to buy, I need to understand psychologically what was missed. What did I do wrong? What did that person actually need? How can I go create content or messaging around that? And then how can I follow up in terms of re-offering down the road with them and actually creating an offer or changing or shifting my offer slightly to give them what it is that they need, rather than what my offer had to offer at that moment in time. You know what I mean? So something super simple, just taking notes, man, it helps in so many different areas.
Now, how do you stay organized on top of your leads so you don't leak a lead or miss a follow-up? Is there a system you're using, like Pipedrive or Active Campaign?
Yeah, Active Campaign.
Active Campaign. Okay, cool. So just for the salespeople out there that deal with clients, even business owners, if you're a lawyer, real estate agent, et cetera, this is helpful. So when you're logging your notes in that system, do you put them into an automated follow-up sequence to keep them nurtured by email? You move them to a group? Do you do it all? What's like kind of that nurturing kind of process thereafter for a non-client?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, our nurture process or our follow up is pretty still organic. It's not automated from that capacity. I think we probably could improve a lot with the follow up on that. But yeah, I mean, sending out emails and sending out conversations or triggering conversations again afterwards is really important. We tend to do that more organically with our follow up in Messenger. But yeah, I mean, if you're dealing with heavy lead flow, it's critical to have an automated process to just follow back up.
Yeah, okay. And then speaking of organic leads, I mean, these people are how long before how long do they know you before they get on a call, or does some people just come in cold? Like what kind of calls are you handling on the majority?
I mean, depending on where they're coming from, like the organic side, they could know us for probably 2 to 4 months before we get on a call with them inside of our group. And then obviously the paid ad side, people will see an ad and just jump on a call. And really, you'll see the lead quality be significantly higher in the organic side again, because they just know, like, and trust us by the time they get on a call. And the close rate's going to be a lot higher with the organic, as opposed to the paid ads, which are just like, wow, I just saw this ad. It triggered a response from me. This is something that I think would be cool. Let me learn more about this, right? And it tends to be more of the educational side when it comes to the ads. But that's just, there's law of large numbers. Those are generalities, right? There's obviously going to be good leads that come from ads. It just depends on what scale you're paying for your ads.
Yeah, definitely. It's funny, like the people who click an ad are ready to be pitched. The people who go organic are curious of how they can get help. So yeah, no, I feel the same thing. The different level, the people who know, like, and trust you already are warmer. They're engaged. They've been waiting to pull the trigger, and they've just been delaying it in their mind of not going forward. Now, what are some of the best training tips or ideas that people should do for their target audience to get them to know, like, and trust them quickly?
Well, I think it's just customer research right now. It's asking really quality questions to your audience, getting their feedback, and then providing content around that. I think that a critical mistake a lot of people make, at least in the Fit Pro business, is they'll just make videos and content and just start whatever comes to their mind, just putting it out. And I think that actually distracts your audience because they get confused as to what your messaging really is. The best thing you can do is just ask your audience really good questions, really deep questions, and then dig beyond it so that you can understand, like, what your content could actually be based around to support them. And then it's going to actually sound like you're talking to them. And those are the people that are going to generally come to you and be like, hey, how can you help me with where I'm at?
Right. Awesome. Cool. Any other tips or tricks or advice you have to people who are kind of like down on themselves, or even people who just want to improve?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, this is something that is like radically evident now more so than ever. Is the scarcity mindset is rampant everywhere. People are fearful and people are doubting the future. They don't know what's to come. And situations like this are really going to indicate your character as a human being, as to how you show up on a daily basis, what your routines are, how disciplined you are, because it's not a matter of time anymore. It's not a lack of time. Right now, it's just a matter of discipline. So your ability to show up as a leader is going to define the way that you come out of this and the way that your business can come out of this, however long, whether it's 3 to 6 months down the road, whether it's a year from now. How long can you keep your mindset in a frame of leadership when times are the toughest? Because I think that's going to indicate how people are attracted to you when things are a lot easier, right? And so maintaining that frame of leadership, doing the things for yourself on a daily basis in terms of your morning formula, the process that you go through for you every day, whether that's taking time to focus on your breathing, your meditation, just getting back to like homeostasis within yourself, like get back to balance. And I've got to do that too, man. Like you get on a couple calls that don't go the way you want it to go and you just get stressed out and you let that energy like pervasively go into the next call. So I think all of us need to take time and do some self-care, really take the time and energy for yourself, step into a leader for self before you can lead others. And I think that'll exponentially dictate where you go and in your life and in your business when times get a lot easier.
Right. Awesome. I appreciate that. So if you guys want to follow Coach PD, he's tagged in this video. Go ahead and give him a follow. And also, if you own a gym and you need help scaling your business, this is the dude to go to. Why don't you talk about your ideal customer? Because I know I can tag people that own fitness facilities that I know in my neighborhood too.
Yeah, man. I mean, honestly, right now our intention is to help gym owners that don't know what that transition is going to look like, where they're at right now with their business in terms of how long they're going to stay closed, what the next steps are, how to actually service your clients that have been in the gym with you in an online capacity where you can continue to grow and scale your business and serve people that are beyond just your local area. People that are just wanting to actually make a business out of being able to build their business around their life, right? So like everything, every gym owner you talk to, it's like, I want to have time and financial freedom. And then they start owning a gym and they're like, shit, I got to do everything all the time. And so like they've been stuck in that mindset, in that rut. And right now is the absolute opportunity where that's no longer an opportunity to be an excuse. You have time to make the shifts that you want to make right now and actually create the life that you want to create. It's just a matter of your willingness to take action. Those are the people we want to work with, man. People that are willing and ready to take action to serve a higher purpose and to help more people and to get the hell out of their own way.
Awesome, man. Well, hey, give this dude a follow anyways. This guy can help watch his content. It's fucking amazing. Thanks so much on this Saturday to take time to help other people on this interview.
Yeah, man. Appreciate you having me. Take care of yourself, bro.
Yep, you too. I'm going to stop here and then I want to talk to you right after.